On May 13th, 2025, a digital broadcast from a beauty salon in Zapopan, Mexico, took a chilling turn. Valeria Marquez, a 23-year-old influencer, was live streaming to her followers when the camera, focused on a stuffed pig in her lap, captured the silent, final moments of her life. A voice off-camera called her name, and seconds later, the stream went black. She was gone in an instant. Just days before, Valeria had been open about her fears, posting about threats and even naming a person she believed was a danger to her. Yet, despite her cries for help, no one stepped in to stop the inevitable. The attack appeared to be a planned event. A gift was delivered, the door was open, and the assailant confirmed her identity before the final act. Her last moments were broadcast to the world, leaving a haunting question. Why did no one intervene before it was too late? Before we analyze the suspicions in the case, please tell me where you saw this video from. I will read it all and spread it to the world. Around 4:30 p.m. that day, Valeria began her live stream at her salon, Blossom Beauty Lounge. Hours earlier, a person in a mask had appeared at the salon, claiming to have a special delivery for her. When Valeria learned about this, she voiced her concern on camera. "Maybe they were going to hurt me or something," she said to her viewers. She then asked her friend, "What was he riding?" Upon hearing it was a motorcycle, she added, "They were going to take me away." Later, she confided, "I stayed worried." Despite her unease, she was advised by her friend Vivian not to leave. Valeria read the message aloud on the stream, saying, "Vivian says to wait, because she wants to see my face." Throughout the broadcast, Valeria appeared tense, sitting at a table with a pink stuffed pig on her lap, trying to appear calm. A voice from off-camera called her name. She responded, muted the audio, and moments later, 3 sharp reports were heard. The video abruptly ended. Valeria never stood up again. Valeria Marquez, born in 2002, had spent years building a public profile as a model, entrepreneur, and beauty influencer in Zapopan, Jalisco. She started modeling at 15, gaining visibility through local campaigns and magazine features. Her fame grew after winning the regional Miss Rostro pageant in 2021. At the time of her passing, she had a significant following, with over 100,000 followers on TikTok and Instagram, and some reports suggest her count surpassed 260,000. She was also the owner of Blossom Beauty Lounge, a salon she frequently promoted in her videos and live broadcasts. In the weeks leading up to the tragedy, Valeria had been posting publicly about her fears. She mentioned threatening messages and suspicious visits, and even shared images of what appeared to be bruises. She warned her followers that if anything were to happen to her, they would know who was responsible. However, authorities later confirmed she never filed a formal police report. Still, the warning was there, clear and repeated for anyone to see. 2 other women were present in the salon at the time of the incident: Vivian, her friend, and Erica Hernandez, an employee. Both became subjects of public speculation. Valeria and Vivian's relationship was complex. They were once close, but had a significant falling out that lasted about a year, only recently reconciling before the event. On the day of the tragedy, Vivian reportedly convinced Valeria to stay at the salon to receive a gift, a Starbucks drink, and a pink stuffed pig. The pig, some observers believe, may have been used as a signal for the assailant to confirm Valeria's presence. A masked person in a separate video has openly accused Vivian of deliberately delaying Valeria and providing insider information, though these claims have not been officially verified. The other person in the salon, Erica Hernandez, was seen approaching the phone and ending the live stream moments after the shots were heard. What struck viewers was her composure. There was no visible panic, no screams, and no immediate rush for help. After the incident, Erica deactivated or privatized all her social media accounts and has not made a public statement. No formal charges have been filed against either Vivian or Erica, but their actions and behavior have raised questions for both the public and investigators. A former boyfriend also casts a long shadow over the case. Valeria had frequently mentioned him in previous posts, implying he was controlling, abusive, and possibly dangerous. She shared messages and photos of bruises, hinting that if something were to happen to her, he would be to blame. Some sources suggest he may have been involved in criminal activities, though his identity and any official connection to the case have never been confirmed. Blossom Beauty Lounge was a modern, brightly lit space that Valeria owned and operated. It doubled as her studio for filming content. The salon was located in a small commercial plaza in Zapopan, a city that sits on the edge of Guadalajara and is known for its dual nature: vibrant commerce and organized violence. This duality was on full display on the day Valeria was gone. Just minutes before her live stream was cut short, a former public official was also shot nearby by two men on a motorcycle, a method disturbingly similar to the events at the salon. The assailant at the salon didn't force their way in. They simply walked through the door, asked for Valeria by name, and opened fire. There were no visible signs of a struggle. The salon did not appear to have its own surveillance system, so the incident was captured only by Valeria's phone. 2 days later, a bouquet of red flowers was left outside the salon, with a single word attached: pardon. No one has claimed it or explained its meaning. Inside the salon, Valeria was seated near the front, visible on the live stream. Vivian was off camera, but actively messaging her. Erica was also present. The final shots were heard during the broadcast, and seconds later, Erica ended the stream. Her reaction was quiet and controlled. To this day, no footage or public report has confirmed an emergency response inside the salon in those critical first moments. It remains unclear who placed the first call to emergency services or how quickly they arrived. The assailant left on a motorcycle, and no one at the scene has spoken publicly about what happened in the moments after they disappeared. Zapopan is a city that straddles two worlds. On one side, it is a fast-developing suburb of Guadalajara, with trendy cafes and upscale salons. On the other, it borders territories controlled by organized crime, where power is asserted through fear. It's in this ambiguous space that Valeria was gone, and the silence surrounding her case may reveal more about the region than any official statement ever could. The events on May 13, 2025, were not isolated incidents. The same day, a former federal deputy was also shot. Both incidents followed a similar pattern: a person on a motorcycle, a quick execution, and a clean escape with no arrests. In a place like Zapopan, where criminal activity bleeds into everyday life, this was less of a coincidence and more of a choreographed event. Jalisco, the state where Zapopan is located, is the home of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, a powerful criminal organization known for using hired assailants to carry out executions in broad daylight. According to the Mexican National Public Security System, over 900 homicides were recorded in Jalisco in 2024 alone, with a large percentage linked to organized crime. A growing number of these incidents involve women. In 2024, the state ranked 6th for femicide reports, with over 800 women gone, yet only a fraction of those cases ever led to charges. Influencers like Valeria, young, visible, and independent, are particularly at risk. Their online presence makes them easy to locate, and their autonomy often puts them at odds with controlling figures. Valeria was not the first. In August 2023, Fashion blogger Daniela Roas was assaulted after criticizing powerful men. And in November 2024, a 19-year-old TikToker disappeared after accepting a modeling gig, only to be found days later. What connects these cases is not just the gender of the victims, but the eerie predictability of the aftermath: outrage, media coverage, and then silence. Valeria used live streaming to connect with her audience, but in the end, it was that same platform that broadcast her final moments. Her own words, spoken minutes before the tragedy, became evidence of a system that fails to listen until it's too late. "They're coming," she said. "Maybe they were going to hurt me or something." Her viewers heard her fear, but no one intervened. The crime scene at Valeria's salon was clean, almost too clean. The assailant walked in, asked for her name, and took her life. There were no screams, no cries for help. Her employee, Erica, calmly ended the live stream. To this day, there is no confirmation of who made the emergency call or when. 2 days later, the mysterious bouquet of red roses with a note reading "Pardon" was left outside the salon. Authorities have identified the person who purchased the flowers, but have not named or questioned them. This silence is not unique, it is systemic. In Jalisco, over 3,000 women have been killed between 2021 and 2024. Yet fewer than 15% of those cases have resulted in convictions. Many of these incidents are dismissed as private disputes, but Valeria's live stream cuts through that narrative. It shows a woman who was targeted, who voiced her fears, and who was still left unprotected. The method itself, hired assailants on motorcycles acting on precise information, suggests logistics rather than street-level violence. Zapopan prides itself on being a modern city, but for women, that modernity seems to be an illusion without safety. The state's failure to protect women like Valeria speaks not of incompetence, but of misplaced priorities. When hundreds of thousands can watch a young woman's final moments on camera, and the system still fails to act, complicity becomes a valid question. Live streams were once a symbol of connection for Valeria. They became a digital coffin. Her voice, however, continues to linger, forcing us to ask, who benefits from the silence? Who profits when justice is delayed? And who are we protecting when we choose to look away? On May 13, 2025, the Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office launched an official investigation into Valeria's passing, classifying it as a femicide. The live stream video became the central piece of evidence, providing a timeline and crucial visual details. Authorities confirmed that Valeria was shot 3 times after the assailant confirmed her identity. The entire event unfolded in less than 10 seconds. Forensic teams recovered her smartphone for a full digital analysis, including reviewing messages and audio data. Authorities noted that while Valeria had muted the audio, the video still captured critical nonverbal cues. The investigation then turned to those present at the scene. Authorities questioned Vivian, who had messaged Valeria minutes before the incident, urging her to stay to receive a surprise. Valeria had read this message aloud on the stream. Given the coordinated timing of the gifts and the assailant's arrival, investigators considered if Vivian's role was more than just a coincidence. Vivian denied any knowledge of the assailant, but was interviewed in full. Erica Hernandez, the employee who ended the live stream, was also questioned. Her calm demeanor in the video drew widespread scrutiny, and she has remained silent in the public eye. Shortly after the incident, Erica Hernandez, the employee who ended the live stream, either deactivated or privatized all her social media accounts. The prosecutor's office has not confirmed if she is still under investigation, stating only that her testimony was taken as a witness, not a suspect. In a separate twist, authorities traced the origins of a bouquet of red flowers left outside the salon 2 days after Valeria's passing. The flowers bore a handwritten card with a single word: "Pardon." This chilling gesture sparked speculation that it may have come from someone with knowledge of or involvement in the incident. Prosecutor Salvador González de los Santos confirmed in a press briefing that investigators had identified the person who purchased and delivered the flowers, but declined to release the person's name or their potential connection to the victim. He added that there were no security cameras at the flower shop, which limited their ability to gather more footage. The prosecutor reportedly emphasized that while the act of leaving flowers alone couldn't establish a motive, the circumstances warranted a deeper investigation. As of now, no arrests have been made in connection with the case. The investigation remains open, with the Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office maintaining that all lines of inquiry, personal, digital, and physical, are still being pursued. However, the lack of public updates and the emotionally charged nature of the case have led to growing pressure from women's rights groups and online communities demanding transparency and accountability. For now, the assailant remains unidentified, and the silence from both witnesses and officials continues to cast a long shadow over a crime that unfolded in front of hundreds. One of the most significant challenges in Mexico's criminal justice system, especially in cases like this, is the breakdown in witness cooperation. In the days following the event, investigators interviewed individuals who were present or close to the scene. While some gave initial statements, in many similar cases across Mexico, witnesses often retract their testimony as investigations progress. The fear is not unfounded. Criminal groups, including the Jalisco New Generation cartel, have a visible presence in areas like Zapopan. When a person speaks, they do so knowing they might be putting themselves or their families at risk. In this context, silence is a strategy for survival, and the truth becomes a casualty. A second major obstacle is a lack of evidence. Unlike countries with extensive surveillance and forensic networks, many regions in Mexico lack consistent access to even basic investigative tools. In Valeria's case, the live stream provided a limited view into the incident, but no additional footage from security cameras was available either inside or outside the salon. Authorities confirmed that the flower shop had no cameras and no clear forensic evidence. No fingerprints or other physical traces was found at the scene that could clearly identify the assailant. Without hard evidence or cooperative witnesses, even a moment captured on a live stream becomes difficult to prosecute. Further complicating these limitations is the influence of cartels. The CJNG, which is widely believed to operate in the Zapopan area, exerts both economic and psychological control over local communities. Their reputation alone is often enough to deter action. When an incident occurs with the precision and speed seen here, it mirrors tactics used by cartel-affiliated enforcers. However, suggesting cartel involvement publicly is dangerous. Authorities must tread carefully, and witnesses, if they speak at all, tend to be guarded. This fear leaves a trail of silence where justice should be. Despite the public shock and the viral spread of the video, the official government response has been subdued. President Claudia Sheinbaum acknowledged the situation during a press briefing, stating, "An investigation is underway to first find those responsible and the motive behind this situation." She expressed condolences, but did not announce any specific policy changes. The Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office continues its investigation, but has yet to announce any suspects or arrests. Meanwhile, women's advocacy groups have criticized the government's handling of the case, arguing that without meaningful legal action, public condolences are just for show. In the absence of witness protection programs and forensic support, cases like Valeria's remain stuck in a familiar cycle. A woman is gone, the public reacts, the government makes a promise, and then nothing. What happened to Valeria reveals troubling signs of premeditated orchestration. From the timeline of events to the symbolic items involved, this was not a random act. It was a planned execution, structured around control and silence. The more one looks, the clearer it becomes that every element served a purpose, not only to facilitate the incident, but to control its public perception. The delivery of gifts hours before the shooting appears in retrospect as an intentional act to lure her into a false sense of security. Valeria expressed fear and hesitation about a masked man trying to deliver a gift while she was away. But she stayed, partly due to a message from her friend Vivian, who encouraged her to wait. The items delivered later, a coffee and a pink stuffed pig, seemed to have been calculated distractions. The coffee may have calmed her, and the pig, as some believe, may have marked her. The stuffed animal, in particular, has become one of the most disturbing symbols in the case. It was placed directly in her lap during the live stream, a position impossible to miss if the assailant had been instructed to identify their target not by face, but by the presence of a specific item. In other words, someone may have ensured Valeria was marked at exactly the right moment. The events that followed were just as suspicious. Erica Hernandez ended the live stream without visible panic. Within hours, both Erica and Vivian had deactivated or privatized their social media accounts. Whether this was a response to online scrutiny or a conscious effort to remove digital traces, the result was the same. The public was left without access to critical context. The most chilling question is this. According to prosecutors, the assailant did not know Valeria personally. They had to ask if she was her. If the assailant needed verbal or visual confirmation to identify their target, then someone else had to orchestrate that moment with precision. Who placed the pig in her lap? Who made sure she was on camera just moments before the arrival of the final act? Who assured the assailant they were targeting the right person without ever having met them? These are not questions of coincidence. They are the fingerprints of manipulation. While much of the attention has focused on what happened during Valeria's final broadcast, the roots of her vulnerability may extend much further back, to the silence within her own family and her fractured relationship with her father. On the surface, Valeria projected an image of a self-made, ambitious young woman, but behind the scenes, there were public signals of distress, many of which pointed to her family. On multiple occasions, Valeria hinted at her father's absence from critical moments in her life. In one post, she stated that she had asked him for financial help to open her salon, and the request was denied without discussion. To Valeria, the salon was a statement of independence, and his refusal forced her to seek support elsewhere, possibly from individuals who would later prove to be dangerous. She also spoke of emotional abandonment, sharing a screenshot of a text exchange, where she accused her father of always prioritizing his partner over her. The pattern she described wasn't of a father who had disappeared, but one who was present just enough to remind her of his distance. She also recounted moments from her teenage years when she struggled to pay for school, relying on part-time jobs while her father had promised to help, but never did. These details paint a picture of a young woman who fought to sustain herself with no consistent support system. In Mexico, where financial dependence can be a form of control, Valeria's autonomy may have been both her greatest strength and her most dangerous vulnerability. Perhaps most alarmingly, her family, and especially her father, did not take her seriously when she voiced concerns about her safety. She posted about receiving threats and shared photos of what appeared to be bruises, but those close to her said her family dismissed her warnings as drama. Whether this disbelief was rooted in denial or something else, the result was the same. Valeria was left to face escalating danger alone. Her words, I feel like I'm alone in this, spoken in a live stream, now feel prophetic. She was trying to be heard by those closest to her, and tragically, they did not listen. This pattern reflects a common element in gender-based violence. The victim speaks, the world looks away, and when it is too late, we finally listen. In the days after Valeria's death, the shock was compounded by reports of her father's troubling behavior. A video circulated online alleging that he entered the apartment where Valeria had been living and began to go through her belongings without consent, attempting to remove household items like a refrigerator. The footage sparked immediate backlash. What should have been a time of mourning instead became a spectacle of entitlement. Witnesses claimed he was trying to take possessions that did not belong to him, many of which Valeria had purchased herself. For a young woman who repeatedly said she felt unsupported by her father in life, the optics of him claiming her things after her passing felt like a final betrayal. This act highlights a deeper issue in Mexican culture. Daughters who seek financial independence in public-facing professions often face judgment from their own families. Valeria's role as an influencer may have distanced her further from traditional expectations, especially from a father who, by her own account, neither supported nor protected her. Emotional and psychological neglect, often coming from within the family, is a significant but often overlooked form of gender-based violence. The official legal response to gender-based violence in Jalisco remains slow and inconsistent. Only 1 in 10 femicide cases reaches formal prosecution within the first year of investigation, often due to a lack of evidence, witness cooperation, or political will. In the case of Valeria Marquez, more than 30 days have passed with no arrests, no formal charges, and no clear prosecutorial direction. Despite the incident being captured on a live stream and watched by thousands, the investigation continues, but it seems to have stalled. Given all these details, the suspicious behavior of those present, the strange gift, the silence from authorities, and the complex family dynamics, what do you think is the most compelling aspect of this case? Do you think the answers lie with the witnesses, or do they point to a broader issue of silence and control? The investigation into Valeria Marquez's passing remains open, but no formal indictment has been submitted. This places the incident among a growing list of unsolved cases in Mexico, not for a lack of clues, but for a lack of follow-through. Part of the problem lies in the blurred line between gender-based violence and organized crime in regions like Zapopan. The incidents are rarely strictly domestic or purely cartel-related. They exist at a complex intersection. Influencers like Valeria, who operate in public digital spaces, gain visibility and success. But this same visibility can attract the attention of men in power, partners, online stalkers, or individuals with ties to criminal networks. When these women try to assert their independence or speak about threats, they often find themselves caught between personal danger and institutional inaction. Prosecuting such incidents is complicated by the nature of organized crime in Mexico, particularly in Jalisco, the home of the CJNG. The group is known for maintaining control through fear that infiltrates neighborhoods, courts, and police precincts. Witnesses often retract their statements out of a concern for retaliation. In this climate, investigators often opt for silence or delay, hoping to avoid escalation. Even when public figures like Valeria post about threats or disturbing messages, their words are rarely treated as legal evidence. Instead, authorities may view them as anecdotal or lacking specificity. The burden of proof remains disproportionately high for those who have been wronged, especially when the suspected aggressor has no formal charges on record. This reluctance to act means the legal system often recognizes danger only in hindsight, after the damage is irreversible. In theory, Mexico's laws provide a framework to investigate and prosecute gender-based violence with urgency and sensitivity. But in practice, enforcement is inconsistent. Jalisco, despite having a gender alert in place since 2016, remains one of the top states for unsolved cases. There are not enough specialized prosecutors, and local police often default to standard protocols that overlook the gender dynamics of these situations. The challenge is even greater when the person affected is a public figure. For influencers like Valeria, the line between public and private life is constantly blurred. They build careers on visibility, but this also exposes them to both digital and physical surveillance. Law enforcement in Jalisco has yet to articulate a clear strategy for protecting influencers as a vulnerable category. While journalists and human rights defenders have legal protections, digital content creators, especially women, fall into a gray area. Valeria's passing should have prompted a legal review of this gap, but it has not. For now, her case remains a painful illustration of legal inertia. It raises difficult questions. What use are public warnings if no one acts on them? What value does public outcry hold when institutions stay silent? And what will it take before the justice system recognizes that visibility should not equate to vulnerability? Even when laws are slow and platforms are fragile, people still have the power to pay attention. Valeria did not go quietly. She passed away in the middle of a conversation. She had followers, friends, messages, videos, and warnings, yet no one reached her in time. This truth should haunt us, and more importantly, it should change us. Valeria trusted that her live streams, stories, and public posts would make her safer. But in the end, that visibility became a trap. It drew attention, but not always the protective kind. Even with thousands of eyes on her screen, she was left to face her final moments alone. What does that say about how we use our attention? When a woman says she's scared, the question shouldn't be, is she exaggerating? The question should be, what can I do? That simple shift could save lives. Too often, we judge people in public before we try to understand them privately. We decide someone is being dramatic or irresponsible based on fragments of their life they've posted online. But what if those fragments are cries for help? What if that one deleted post or comment about being followed was the moment we were supposed to act? Part of the reason people hesitate to support women like Valeria is because of who she was, a young, beautiful, independent woman in a visible profession. Beauty influences are often dismissed, sexualized, or blamed. The narrative is always the same. She put herself out there. But this line of thinking is not just lazy, it's dangerous. No one, no matter how public their life is, deserves to be targeted. Public presence is not public permission. The people closest to Valeria failed her. The institutions tasked with protecting her failed her. And in many ways, the audience watching her failed to truly listen. But that doesn't mean it ends here. We don't get to rewind what happened, but we do get to decide how we respond when the next woman says, "I'm scared." We can choose not to brush her off. We can choose to call, to check in, to take it seriously, even if it makes us uncomfortable. Because the alternative is another muted screen, another bouquet of flowers left too late, another young woman whose warnings are remembered only after the fact. When systems don't respond, communities must. This doesn't mean playing detective or pointing fingers. It means building a culture where empathy is reflexive, not conditional. It means seeing someone's fear as a reason to care. It means believing people when they say they feel unsafe, even if they don't have every detail figured out. Valeria's story is not just a tragedy. It's a test of what kind of society we are willing to be. Valeria Marquez did not go quietly. In the days and weeks leading up to her passing, she left signs, digital, verbal, emotional, trying to tell the world something was wrong. She shared messages about fear. She posted images that hinted at physical abuse, and she said, "If anything happened to me or my family, you already know who it would be." These weren't vague hints, they were alarms. And yet, they passed through screens and feeds like static. She also spoke a name, a former partner, controlling and allegedly abusive. The clues were there for anyone willing to look closely, but instead of protection, she received skepticism. Even on the day of her passing, she asked, "What was he riding?" and said, "They were going to take me." She named the danger, and still no one moved. When the moment came, Valeria didn't run or scream. She sat quietly, clutching a pink stuffed pig, an item that would later be seen as a possible signal for the assailant. She stayed because she believed someone was coming, a friend who told her to wait. So she waited, live on TikTok, in the very place she called her dream. Her salon, her sanctuary, became the final scene. The help she waited for never arrived. This is what Valeria left behind. Not just a crime scene or a viral video, but a pattern of young women speaking up and being silenced. A pattern of fear met with apathy. She warned. She named. She waited. And what answered her was an ending, delivered in real time, witnessed by strangers, and followed by silence. What remains is not just grief, but accountability. Valeria did not pass away in darkness. She passed away in the light, and no one came. That is a failure of attention. And if we do not learn from that, she will not be the last. There has been no trial, no suspect, no formal charges filed, not even a public apology from officials, just a muted stream, a closed salon, and a name added to the growing list of women lost to gender-based violence in Mexico. The Blossom Beauty Lounge, a business Valeria had poured her energy into, now sits dark and empty. It was once a place of self-expression, but after her passing, it became a shrine for a few days before its doors closed for good. And yet, the video remains. Despite being removed from TikTok, countless copies have circulated online, a permanent contradiction to any statement claiming the authorities are doing their best. Because in that video, everything is plain. Her fear, her stillness, and then the final moments. The truth is brutal. Valeria believed someone would intervene. She waited because someone told her to. She didn't run or scream. She sat still, hoping that being visible would mean being safe. But it wasn't enough, because attention is not the same as protection, and views don't equate to safety. As the online world split into camps, some offered sympathy, while others blamed her for staying too long. Meanwhile, those once close to her faded quietly into the background. The woman who was once surrounded by cameras and compliments ended her life in front of both, and no one has publicly claimed her in grief. So what remains? A locked salon, a fading hashtag, an unanswered bouquet of flowers, and a final lesson written in the stillness of her last few minutes. If you have ever told yourself that someone else will handle it, that someone will step in, that surely someone will call for help, then remember this. Valeria Marquez thought the same. She waited. She hoped. She sat still. And in the final breath between trust and betrayal, no one came. How does this story of a life lived so publicly and yet lost so privately make you feel? With all the details laid out, the warnings, the failed systems, the silence from those who knew her. What do you believe is our collective responsibility when we witness a woman's fear online? What action, if any, do you think we should take to ensure that visibility for women in these spaces doesn't continue to be a trap? Thanks for watching. How do you feel about these arguments and theories? Does it give you a different perspective on the case? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive the latest notifications.